How's it going, you guys? So in this video, I wanted to talk about birth control because I've been getting a lot of questions lately about my thoughts on the safety, the effectiveness, and a variety of other questions about birth control. First of all, first and foremost, there's multiple types of birth control, okay? So you have the pill, you have the patch, you have intrauterine devices. That includes a hormonal plastic insert or a copper insert. Then you have the shot, then you have the implant. So I've actually had the interesting experience of actually dating and being friends with a multitude of females who have been on each and every single one of them in the last, I don't know, 20 years of my life. Yeah, no, 15 years. Anyway, and I've done a lot of research on these things, more specifically in 2016 and 2017, earlier on in my health journey. And so here's the short answer to all your questions. All of the hormonal birth control methods are extremely dangerous, absolutely. And I'm pretty sure everybody that follows my channel already is with that understanding. I'm sure all of you already know that. Um, but because it's pretty common knowledge on the extreme side effects of these substances. So from my experience, I'll tell you the implant seems to be the worst. First of all, because it has a very high tendency of getting infected. And second of all, because of the type of hormones that it produces, it causes girls that, well, at least in my experience, they're always sick and have extreme nausea and other just debilitating health issues, seemingly like liver toxicity symptoms, but I can't verify that. But that's what it seemed like. And then always moody, always depressed. The implant especially, but all of these birth control pills, these hormonal birth control pills, including the intrauterine insert, the plastic one, is hormonally active, and it falls in line with these as well. The pill to a certain degree as well. The shot definitely. The implant definitely, and the patch as well. Okay, all of these are hormonally active, and they affect hormones in a way that they create extreme mood imbalances. So things like anxiety, anxiety attacks. They can create depression and mood swings. And also, there's actually been studies done where they take a group of women who are on birth control and then a group of women who are not, and then they put their boyfriend in front of them, and they use brain imaging to measure the activity of their brain, and then they put other random dudes they've never seen before in front of them, and they actually show the same exact response in the brain imaging scans on the birth control group for the random strangers that they don't know, and then their boyfriends. They have the same response compared to the group that were not on birth control, who had brain imaging that represented love and compassion, or at least special feelings towards their boyfriend, and then completely different activity for the strangers. That's pretty alarming that, according to these brain scans, and if you've followed me for a while, you know that I don't really give a lot of credit to these brain imaging scans that people use, because they can mean many different things, but that's striking that there's different brain imaging responses on the girls that are on birth control. When they look at a stranger, they see the same exact thing as their boyfriend. Now, that can mean a multitude of different things, but I'll tell you from my experience, the girls that I've dated that are on certain types of birth control, um, they are overwhelmingly horny in a very, very strangely abnormal, promiscuous way. They like, excuse me if this offends you, but this turns them into nymphos almost, what you would call nymphomaniacs. and they become mentally deranged. Like, not to say that, not, and to different degrees depending on the person, the type of birth control. Okay, like, really hope that this doesn't offend people, but these hormonally active birth controls are extremely dangerous and have extreme negative effects on a female's brain, on their emotions, on their physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health. Absolutely. Um, Again, this goes for the intrauterine insert, the plastic one. This goes for the patch. This goes for the pill. This goes for the shot, especially, and this definitely goes for the implant. Absolutely. So the most significant and immediately noticeable effects are the effects on the psychology of the person that's taking these. Um, So the other thing is physical problems. So I mean, you're literally creating physical, emotion or hormonal imbalances, like to the degree of to the equivalent of steroids, like in a male. Not to say that this can induce extreme physical changes, but it actually can. So, there's actually a pretty strong link between breast cancer and some of these forms of hormonally active birth control. I've actually found that a large portion of my family members that I've known that were on birth control during their teenage years developed breast cancer. And there's a lot of counter studies that's been funded by these drug companies to prevent this fact, or this correlation, I should say, um, from being widely accepted. Okay, they don't want you to think that their drugs increase the risk of breast cancer. So another thing I want to mention is that the copper insert, the copper intrauterine device insert. So the problem with that is now you have an eternally active, like an active source of copper 24/7 in your body that passes the digestion in the stomach and all these things. So this can create mineral imbalances, in particular with zinc and iron. So with the female, so there's a possibility for a greater chance of anemia if you have these copper inserts, due to an excess of copper and a possible deficiency in zinc and how your body regulates iron. Okay, it could possibly prevent the absorption of iron, or it can actually increase the absorption of iron. And for females, it's good to have your period, okay, on a regular basis so that your body can actually um, basically have a natural phlebotomy, where basically you're stripping the body of iron in your period every month. That's one of the reasons why females are at a higher chance of anemia, and why female multivitamins contain iron is because they strip their body of blood and iron on a regular basis, whereas men are at a way greater risk of iron overload. So what does that mean for the copper insert birth control? Well, that means if you're not having your period on a regular basis and you have a mineral imbalance involving copper, zinc, and iron, you could easily develop iron overload if you're not careful and don't get regular checkups. And, depending on its effects on your period and on your cycle, you may not have your period in a lot of these birth control methods. Which again, that can set you up for iron overload, which can cause permanent organ damage if left uncontrolled. Now there will be extreme symptoms of iron overload, things like abdominal cramping, a tendency towards vomiting, nausea, and then of course problems with the heart, heart flutters, and other abnormalities. You'll feel sick, and a quick hemoglobin test, blood count, red blood cell count, and ferritin. Just a general checkup can generally rule that out. So let's see. So the next thing, and this is probably one of the most important things, is that doctors will prescribe birth control at disturbingly young ages, and this is just fucked up and irresponsible. But I've heard of parents being pressured by their general practitioner to give their 12-year-old daughters birth control um, to regulate things like mood, to regulate things like if they're having heavy periods or something, or if they're showing symptoms of hormonal imbalances, which are almost always caused by their nutrition and lifestyle, or another medication they're already taking. So things like psychoactive drugs, like drugs that they prescribe for mental health problems, can a lot of times cause hormonal imbalances. And I speak from experience because I was actually on heavy doses of Seroquel from the time I was 9 years old all the way until I was 21. I got myself off that. Um, so it's true that, estrogen, estradiol, prolactin, progesterone, progestin, all of these hormones that are, extremely important for a female's mood and reproductive reproductive growth as they're growing up. They're severely affected by all of these mental health drugs, and they're also dramatically affected by your diet, inadequate fat soluble nutrient intake, so things like vitamin A, vitamin K2, vitamin D, especially vitamin D, and then calcium and magnesium, vitamin B1. All of these are generally inadequate in pretty much the vast majority of standard American diets growing up. Taking a multivitamin isn't really going to solve that either. And, this can create a lot of the problems that doctors prescribe young girls, 12-year-old girls, to be put on birth control. So then what happens? So they demonstrate symptoms of polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is a symptom of insulin resistance, just so you know. Or they have like mood swings that the doctor claims is like caused by hormonal irregularities. And this is legit what things I've heard before. And then they put them on birth control at a young age, claiming it's to help to regulate their hormones. Guy, the fucking girl is 12 years old. Even at 14, okay, prescribing drugs for a hormonal imbalance is disturbing, it's disgusting, it's irresponsible, it's fucking evil. And what's going to happen is it's actually going to cause hormonal imbalances, obviously, that are, and that, and all of these symptoms of so-called hormonal imbalance are almost always rooted in some kind of nutritional deficiency or an excessive amount of refined carbs or something to that extent, or another medication they're already taking. And then you prescribe them these exogenous estrogenic progesterone inducing birth control pills to take care of a problem that only exists because of the foundation is missing. And now what happens is they become hypersexual. Their moms are wondering why their daughters are exhibiting just some disturbing behavior that is just heartbreaking for parents. And, then they create even more mood imbalances and depression and anxiety disorders and mood swings and things, which doctors usually don't chalk it down to birth control. They put them on a bunch of other drugs, and the cycle continues and continues and spins out of control, pretty much ruins their fucking life. Um, and it sets them up for a lot of health problems later on. So, I guess you would call it a hypothesis, as a hypothesis, or a notion to a certain extent, that um, taking birth control pills that are hormonally active early in, teenhood can actually abnormally modify the development of reproductive organs and can hinder or modify negatively the hormonal environment in which that female grows up in, which can create health problems later on. And I'm I'm pretty skeptical about the effects on brain development as well as a result of these drugs being given to teenage girls at such a young age. It's so disturbing. Um, so, I mean, really, like, changing a female's hormones, regardless of the age, has a significant impact on neurotransmitter activity, which has a significant impact on receptor site growth, and this can change the physical brain. This can have a neuroplastic effect that is long lasting. So I mean, and these are all just very basic things. They're not, I'm not getting too technical. And I think a lot of people already speculate that this is the case. It's common knowledge in the functional medicine, the alternative medicine crowd, and even the mainstream medicine crowd as well. There's a lot of mainstream medical doctors that have come forth and discussed these severe problems with these drugs. It's terrible. It's disgusting. And obviously things like weight gain, fatty liver disease, high triglycerides, you know, and potential risk for arterial sclerosis later on in life, um, possible blood sugar irregularities. I mean, there's a lot of general side effects of these drugs, but the most important ones are the effects on mental health and you know, what it does to a female's brain, you know. And so, you know, these girls are on these drugs from a very early age. It severely affects their health, their mental health and their physical health. And then they're dealing with health problems like years later that they think are just like some other like disorder. That maybe it's genetic or whatever, when it's actually being directly caused by this birth control that their doctors pressured their fucking moms into being put on early on in age. It's fucked up. And the worst part about all this is that just like all pharmaceutical medications and the pharmaceutical paradigm in general, um, it's evil disguised as a hero. Like, oh, so you're demonstrating hormonal imbalance symptoms. So I'm going to put you on birth control to balance your hormones. So this is actually going to treat your problem and it's going to fix the problem. When in reality, it's directly causing a hormonal imbalance. What the fuck? You're taking an exogenous hormone. You know, they're, instead of finding the root cause, they try to band-aid it with this disgusting substance that causes so many health problems. So that is overall the issue with most birth controls. Out of all the ones I mentioned, and there's others I haven't mentioned, I would say the copper insert is probably going to be the best, but it also can cause, you know, some severe problems with iron overload and a zinc deficiency and other things. Um, let's see. And all of the hormonally active ones, they should not be underestimated. They're, no matter what they tell you about, oh, you're sure it modifies hormones, but it doesn't cause all the same side effects the other ones. Don't listen to them. They're being they're salesmen is what they're acting like. Okay, it's irresponsible. They all affect hormones to a pretty bad degree. The copper insert still has negative side effects that, you know, requires probably some high levels of zinc supplementation. Most females are already pretty deficient in zinc because they're scared of eating red meat, which is a main source of zinc in the diet. And beans and all the phytic acid and anti-nutrients are probably not helping with your zinc absorption. Let's see. So what do I think about the best source of birth control? So here's what I think. And this is, you know, you could just end the video right here if you don't want to hear my opinion. But so only have sex with people that you can trust. And I know that that's hard because there's a lot of liars and manipulators and stuff out there. But this is the real reason why promiscuous sex is not a healthy, smart idea a lot of the time. This is coming from a guy who used to have a shit ton of promiscuous sex. And I was just a notorious dater, just dating, getting in long-term relationships with girls and staying faithful, but then like dating like a crazy amount when I'm single. Anyway, um, I've only gotten one girl pregnant, and that was a girl that I dated for 4 years, and it was me being stupid because I was not pulling out and I was trusting her period. And I was purposely not pulling out, and it was stupid. And I was taking maca root, which is one herb people should be taking when they come off of birth control to help regulate their hormones again. I was taking maca root, which actually makes you more fertile and boosts your hormonal health to a significant degree. And she was taking maca root at the same time. So we were both taking a fertility boosting herb, maca, high quality maca, obviously at high doses. And we got the pregnancy happened like effortlessly, other than the fact that, of course, I didn't pull out. But anyway, so other than that, I always pulled out, and I generally would always use a condom, except for one period of time where I was just being really fucking stupid. But if the guy uses a condom and he's not some kind of crazy psychopath who pokes holes in them, and he uses a condom and he pulls out, he is extremely unlikely to get the girl pregnant because number one, so pre-cum can only get a girl pregnant if you've already came previously without clearing out the tube, the urethra or whatever you call it, in the man's penis, by going pee or something after the first ejaculation. So the first ejaculation, if there's no leftover sperm cells in the tube in the penis, um, if there's no sperm cells left over from a previous ejaculation, pre-cum cannot actually get the girl pregnant. And generally speaking, if there are leftover sperm cells from a previous ejaculation, those things are so fragile. Those are extremely fragile when they hit oxygen. And just laying around from a previous ejaculation inside the man's penis, it's still very unlikely that those leftover sperm cells will get a girl pregnant. But it's possible. So if you clean out the urethra from the pre-cum, and you don't pre-cum inside a girl, and then the actual sperm, the actual ejaculation is the most potent cause of pregnancy. So the biggest thing is don't ejaculate inside a girl. And if you're a girl, don't let a guy ejaculate inside of you, even if it's around your period. The next thing is, to avoid the pre-cum, wear a condom. So you wear a condom, you avoid the pre-cum, you pull out, and even if there's a tiny like hole in the condom, as long as it's super tiny and the guy pre-comes, but then doesn't actually come inside the girl, that pre-cum is extremely unlikely because it's going to have to travel through the condom. It's going to hit oxygen. And if it's a spermicidal condom, like I'm getting pretty deep in this, but the bottom line is, I think some cases are like freak accidents where it's just like, whoa, we did everything right and we somehow got a girl pregnant. But it's 99, in my opinion, it's 99% effective, in my opinion, 99% effective to wear a condom and fucking pull out. Like, I've always done that, never gotten a girl pregnant, and I just don't see how it's physically possible unless you have some kind of super mega sperm. So these girls who think like, oh my God, like I gotta be on birth control to prevent pregnancy, look, that's fine if that's what you want, but understand all these side effects I mentioned, okay, in this video. Um, and if you believe that the comfort of knowing you're probably not going to get pregnant because you're hormonally destroyed from these birth controls, if that makes you feel comfortable and that's worth it, then that's you. That's fine. But in my opinion, it's so unlikely to get pregnant if you have sex with a guy you trust that you've known for a while. He's wearing a condom. He pulls out while wearing a condom. Um, you know, that, in my opinion, is already super effective. I don't see any reason why girls should be like insisting on unprotected sex and having a guy come in them. Like that just, I know that, that turns lots of people on, including myself. But, it's not smart. You know what I mean? And so killing yourself with birth control to prevent that, to have that pleasure is fucking dumb, in my opinion. It's not healthy. It's not mature. It doesn't make any sense. Um, but if you're in a relationship with a guy, you know him, you have feelings for him, chances are you trust him, you have some kind of connection with him. There's no reason to like need this kind of like birth control thing. Like it doesn't make sense to me. But, you know, again, like you can't trust a lot of guys out there. So if you don't trust him, you don't know him, whatever the fuck, and you're not using protection, even if you are using protection, I understand it's always better to have some kind of insurance policy. And birth control will hormonally corrupt you to the point where you cannot conceive a child for that temporary period of time that the hormones are active. So that is a surefire way of not getting pregnant, okay? Pretty damn much. But you know, I personally, my point is that all of these side effects are not worth it in my opinion. Like for sex, like what the fuck? Like why? Why kill yourself? You know, the better option is yeah, trust the guy, you know, find a guy you trust, do these other steps. And I think that there was another thing that I thought about. I mean, so, you know, I mean, there are other forms of birth control that, you know, females can use to protect themselves, but, you know, but, you know, avoid shady guys and don't have crazy promiscuous sex. I mean, you know, I'm kind of a hypocrite because I used to have a lot of that. But, you know, during that time, I learned a whole lot about how to not get a girl pregnant. Oh yeah, the other thing is, generally speaking, I mean, the majority of people that are trying to conceive a child, like I actually have a client right now, and she actually works in a pregnancy clinic where she has pregnancy testing and things like that. And she was telling me that the most common thing that she experiences in her clinic is that people cannot conceive a child. They try and they try and they try and they try so hard. And they say that she says that it's extremely hard to conceive a child based on all of these things. And obviously, accidents happen. But she says that the most common thing she sees is that, you know, people plan it out around ovulation and they're just like constantly like, you know, getting spermed in and this and that, and they don't create a child. Um, and so she says, it seems like it's extremely hard to get pregnant. Um, you know, for a lot of people at least, is what she's saying. So, you know, and I believe most people are just not healthy. And then the other thing is there's a certain time frame where a female is actually able to conceive a child. She's at when she's ovulating. And you know, if you do not try around the time that she's ovulating, if the sex does not happen around the time she's ovulating, she could still possibly get pregnant, but the chances are very, very slim, depending on the time period within the cycle. And so, again, like all of this, there's always possibilities, and it is actually very common for accidents to happen and things like that. But I'm just saying that, like, you know, it's it's not as easy and cut and dry to like actually have a child as a lot of people act. And to think that you need like this hormonal birth control that doctors pressure people into getting. There's all this fear surrounding like, you know, all of this. I mean, I just can't justify the use of these hormonally active birth controls. This does not make sense. So, yeah, you know, I just don't think any of these are necessary. But at the same time, again, like I'm not saying that there are not uses for it. You know, there's shady men out there. You can't always trust guys, even if you think that they're trustworthy. Like, and it's way better to just not get pregnant. You know what I mean? Because that can completely change your life as well. Sometimes for the better, sometimes not so good. Um, so it all comes down to you making an educated decision. You know, my opinion is just my opinion. You know what I mean? And I'm just laying down some of the negative side effects that are extremely real, and then my logic behind why I don't think it's worth it, and why I think that it's probably not necessary, even no matter what your doctor tells you about birth control, for whatever thing, you know. in my opinion. So anyway, take what you will. I know a lot of people freak out like about this. It's my body and you can't tell girls what to do. I'm not telling anyone what to do. All right. So leave your questions and comments down below. Talk to you later.